Okay, very good. I think you have Justice Chauhan here with us. Justice Chauhan graduated from the University Society in the 1980 and obtained his LLB from Delhi University in the year 83. He practiced in Rajasthan High Court from 1986 to 2005 on the criminal law, constitutional law and service law. Presented cases for various private and public sector, elevated as permanent judge on 13 June 2005, took over as the judge of Himachal High Court on 10th March 2015. He was transferred and took over as the judge of High Court of Judicature of Hyderabad from the state of Andhra Pradesh in Telangana on 23 November 2018. He was appointed Chief Justice of Uttarakhand and retired in December 2025. He is currently based in UK and practicing in Supreme Court. That's his official introduction, which I can read because I think he is a passionate artist and I also understand his mental passion. And we'll know more of that side of him, which I think is more his professional passion today. So we are looking forward to your talk, and I request that we keep our questions to the end. Otherwise, the flow sometimes gets disturbed. So, over to you.
Good morning and thank you for coming for a topic which is very intriguing because we are going to talk about an artist whom I consider to be one of the finest artists India has ever produced. And yet the irony is that I'm sure 98% of the population has never heard of this artist. As it is, we never read about miniature painting. Unless you happen to be from Rajasthan, where the traditional miniature painting continues to be alive and kicking even now. The artist's name is Fattu. I'm sure his official name must have been something like Fateh. But what happens in the mountainous region is that they like to end their name with the sound O. So we do have his father, whose name is actually Mana, but he is known generally as Manapu. Sure. So that's why I take it that his name really should have been Fateh, although we do not know anything about him. He has not even signed his paintings. It is only the art historians that read and analyze it that we realize that yes, he is the creator of all these beautiful paintings. Kangra, as most of you must be knowing, is literally in the heart of the Kangra range in Himachal Pradesh. Today it is famous because the Dalai Lama has his residence there in Darshan. In 18th century it was famous because of a very powerful king by the name of Sansarcha. He was the ruler of Kangra. During that time, Kangra could not even be conquered either by the Mughals or even later on. It was, of course, conquered by the Mughals and later on conquered by Ranjit Singh. But it was the center of a very famous art movement called the Kangra Miniature School or painting movement. And it began actually with Fattu's grandfather. And it's very interesting to note that the entire family produced some of the finest painters of India. It's generation after generation. And the gentleman who began this in Bullet, which is also part of the Kangra district, but there's a principality, or used to be a principality in Kangra by the name of Bullet. Pandit Seth is the first painter that we know of. And it is his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, which give us this beautiful genealogy of great painters of India. Of course, Pandit Seth's younger son, Nansuk, is the most famous artist we know of because the great art critic and art historian of India, Mr. B.N. Goswami, has done seminal work on Nansuk. And in fact, it is he who traced out the entire genealogy of this family by going to Haridwar, getting their ancestral reports from there. And that is when we realized that this single family is going to produce at least 3 to 4 generations of great painters. Now, what is Fattu's importance? Why do we say that he's so different, let's say, from the rest of his family? The first thing is that, like many Indian painters, he does combine the linear and the color. Now, in the Western art, you'll find there is a contradiction and a great contradiction between those who show their paintings or works of art through line, as Leonardo does. Leonardo in his diary says, and he poses this question to himself, he says, how do you describe any object? And his answer is lines, lines, lines. He said everything is defined by lines. If you look at this room, everything in this room is defined by straight lines, 90-degree angles. Something I'm sure that Romida would appreciate because he's an architect. On the other hand, there are people who say, no, wait a minute, lines are not important, it's colors which are important. Because if I put red and blue together, that edge itself becomes a light. So you have colorist in the West versus the linenist. The beauty of Indian art is that we never saw that dichotomy. To us, both work together. And this is what you will see in the works of Fattu. Number two, he's the first artist who begins introducing the concept of landscape into miniature painting. So far, people were concerned more about portraits and less about the landscape, and you'll see beautiful landscapes to create. Number three, he's interested in the common man. He has not left any portrait of a Maharaja or Raja of his time. There's none. What he's interested is that common man, that farmer, that woman who's cooking in her courtyard. He's worried about a teenage boy who takes the cows out to the pasture. Then I'll show you how he does that. And lastly, and most importantly, he reduces all our divinities, whether it be Lord Krishna or any other divinity, to a village lad. To him, Lord Krishna is not a prince. He is a pastoral character who eats and sleeps in the village hut. In fact, there's a beautiful sketch of him and Radha, where the Radha is peeping out through a haystack, wanting to look at Krishna. Now that is a love affair of a village. It is not a divine love affair as, let's say, Gita Govind portrays it, or Krishna is always portrayed as a Prince Charming. He reduces him to our level. According to Fattu, divinity is to be found everywhere around you. Whether it's the lakes, whether it's the rivers, whether it's the trees, whether it's the hills, that is divinity. And I think coming from Guladhar range, that is what it talks about. That's why when I was in Uttarakhand, I realized that's what they mean, Dev Bhumi. That is where divinity exists in our lives. But before we get into his work, I would like to first take you slightly to what is the history of miniature painting. Where does it all originate? And interestingly, it originates from 8th century Bengal. Under the Pala dynasty, before that we had those huge paintings of Ajanta. In the Pala dynasty, the one poetry used to evoke science fiction. This is the White Tara, a goddess of the Buddhist pantheon, done on a palm leaf. And this is 8th century work that you are looking at. Then, when the Mughals came, in the medieval period, you have 4 very famous different schools spread all over India. First is, of course, the Mughal. And Mughals paint miniatures were done in the ateliers which were run by the Mughal emperors. The first one to establish that, of course, was Emperor Akbar, followed by Jahangir and followed by Shah Jahan. And what you're looking at is a portrait of Emperor Shah Jahan in his old age. And look at the meticulous work that is done. It's an individualized portrait. But I want you to keep this face in mind because you're going to meet him again later on. The other school is the Rajasthani school. The Rajasthani, the Pahadi and the Dakkin refer to the geographical areas. And this is a typical Rajasthani miniature painting of Bundi school. And I need not say anything about the theme. The theme is rather obvious what is going on in this painting. This is the Dakkini painting, which is very dissimilar to a Rajasthani or Mughal painting, but that's a topic which is the subject matter of another talk. And this is the Pahadi painting. This is a Kangra painting. Now you can, although it is called The Artist and the Princess, it comes from a series called the Nan Damayanti, where Damayanti is telling the artist, please paint a portrait of Nan at my palace. Because I happen to be madly in love with Rajan Ram. But the other way to interpret it is that it is the artist and his inspiration. As you see in Vermeer's painting, that the artist is sitting at his easel and there's a beautiful lady standing in front. That is not actually a model, that's his inspiration that he's projecting out. So possibly this is a work by Manako, Fattu's father. Possibly he's just projecting that inspiration, who's at the, standing at the door. Now, Sansar Chand, when he was the Raja of Kangra, he commissioned 5 different series of paintings, which we call portfolios. And they are Bhagavad Puran, which deal with the folklore and the stories of Lord Krishna as a child up to teenage when he falls penalty of Radha. We have his Seth Sarai, whom we will discuss in detail, because his poem called the Seth Sarai had a great impact on the Kangra painters, especially at Fattu's work. Then we have what are called Bara Masa series, and we'll discuss that also. And lastly, we'll talk about what are known as Ragmala series. Ragmala series are nothing but paintings in which a Rag or Ragini is given an anthropomorphic form of either a man or a woman. And we do have the same classification. There are Rags, there are Raginis, then the Ragput and the Ragputri. So you will see that how Fattu deals with different Rag and Raginis. The first painting, this is beginning of the Bhagavad Puran series by Fattu, and this is available in our National Museum in Delhi. This is very interesting painting, and I'll show you why it is interesting. Number one, you can see, basically the composition is taken from the Mughal paintings where you have a series of people entering Nanda's house because Lord Krishna, and this is called the celebrating the birth of Lord Krishna. And if you want to see where Lord Krishna is, you'll find him safely and securely suckling the breast of his mother, Yashoda. The beauty of this painting is, number one, he dramatically splits the space. And look at the way he splits the space and makes you concentrate on human beings by coloring them. The rest of the architecture is absolutely pure white. And the center of attention of this painting is naturally this hexagonal thing in Nanda city. And what is happening is that a lot of people are reaching his Haveli to congratulate Nanda because he has been blessed with a son. And you can even see the old man, the servant, and the maid servant hiding behind the door, trying to control the crowd which is coming in. And look at the crowd, and as I said, but whose entire attention is on the common man. Here's an old woman, a young woman, a mendicant, all wanting to go inside the house to congratulate Nanda and to give him what is called the push grass. As they present Nanda with the push grass, he accepts them gladly, but look at the face. That is Shah Jahan's portrait. That is why I was asking, please remember that Shah Jahan's portrait in his old age. This is Nanda appearing to be almost like Shah Jahan. And even you have some figure that looks like a Maulavi with a long beard. Everyone sitting there looks like they are taken from a Mughal miniature painting too. And yet, Yashoda sits secluded in her palace, or her part of the Haveli. She's surrounded by her maids who are trying to cover up while she is busy feeding Lord Krishna. And here's an old maid who's looking at her with a lot of concern, perhaps the midwife, who realizes she has just delivered a child. Although we all know she never delivered Lord Krishna, she delivered a third child. But nonetheless, she has gone through that pregnancy and delivery. So suddenly you have this old woman who is standing there and they're possibly gesturing something to Yashoda. And all the maids are also giving her the push grass. Now, what push grass? Push grass in the olden days was supposed to deal with the evil eye. It was supposed to deflect that evil eye. Medicinally, it cures you of inflammation and infection. That's why you use push grass. In fact, you're supposed to sit on push grass when you have any ailment. And this is what I say. Look at his interest in the common man, the musicians. And he beautifully juxtaposes almost an emperor-like figure to the common man, the said physicians, the mendicant, the poor old woman, and look at all the people who are gathered here. And that seems to be more of his focus, rather than Lord Krishna was stuck inside of the painting. This is another work which you can readily see, and luckily this is the only work of Fattu which is on display at the National Museum. And we all know when Lord Krishna was growing up in Gokul, his dear uncle Kansa wanted to get him killed. So he kept on sending a number of Rakshasas to get Krishna killed. One day when Krishna goes to River Yamuna, he realizes that all his friends, generally we call Gopals, they've all died, and so have his cows. Now he has to find out what is the reason why is it that everyone is dying right next to the Yamuna. So he dives in, and he, lo and behold, at the bottom of the river, he finds black panya, the multi-headed black cobra sleeping there. And he's so mad, and you can see that he has dived in because Fattu in fact shows his clothes and his crown upon the butt tree. And he starts fighting Kali, and he says, Kali, I'll kill you. And that is his anger, and that is why he's stepping on Kali's head and crushing his head. And you can see the subjugation of Kali because Kali is beginning to bleed, and his head is no longer the head of a cobra, it is looking downwards. When his wives realize that they are about to lose their husband, they all rush towards Lord Krishna and offer him notices. And they plead with him that please don't kill him. We promise we will leave the Yamuna, but to spare his life. Merciful as Lord Krishna is, he says, okay, fine, I will not kill him, but all of you leave for. Now this painting is not just about the story of Bhagavad Puran. Most importantly, it talks and it gives a message to us. Protect and keep your water sources pure. The day you start polluting your rivers and your lakes, you will begin to die like the gopas in the cattle. And this, in fact, if you look at Bhagavad Puran, Krishna emerges as one of the greatest environmentalists that we have perhaps, because he talks about preserving Govardhan.
Yes.
Don't cut your trees, pray to your and treat that as sacred. Here is talking about treat your rivers as sacred. And that is the beauty. And look at the beautiful landscape Fattu paints, where he shows you rolling hills. And then he even hints at it that the fight went throughout the night because the dawn is about to break. That is how powerful both the characters are. It's not that Lord Krishna just goes in and a jiffy decides to destroy. No, Kali is a powerful force. It again is the story of good versus evil. But beyond that, it is a story of conservation. Of course, when Nanda realizes that Lord Krishna's life and the lives of the Gokul Vasis are not safe in Gokul, now there is a discussion that takes place between Nanda, who is the headman of the village, and perhaps these are the other four panchas. And they've gathered and look at the setting. It's not a palace, it's not even a haveli, it's not where you saw Nanda at the first slide. This is a hut with a veranda in front. And look what is going on, and look at the sophistication of this painting. Nanda is busy discussing that, okay, now what do we do? Where do we go? And the answer is, well, we migrate to Vrindavan. That's a sacred distance from Kans. Now all this heavy discussion is going on. But look at the two kids. This is Lord Krishna, this is Balram. Either playing or fighting it out like any of the two brothers would. And these are the two wives of Nanda, Yashoda and Rohini. And Yashoda is trying to tell Krishna, okay, calm down or come back to me if you can't win this fight with your brother. I will stop making noises while there is this very serious discussion going on between Nanda and these four. This lady who is the cow maid, cow deliverer, Gopi, she's unaware of what is going on in the village. So she's doing her daily chore of watering and offering water to the cow. But this calf is aware of something is brooding in the village, something is going wrong. And the calf just turns the head around, and where does the calf look except to this group of people discussing what next? And that is the beauty, that he carries that suspense of the story in his painting. You don't know what is happening, going to happen. And what will happen is the migration. And the migration has begun. And look the way he shows the migration. Fattu will show again Nanda almost as an old Shah Jahan. But now Shah Jahan is no longer this imperial elephant. He sits in a bullock cart. Interestingly, bullock cart being driven by a young man. The bullock cart carrying his two wives, interestingly, is driven by the experienced driver. The children are there, and while the headman and his wife, the elite class of the village, is traveling in bullock cart, the common man, which is the focus point, look at how he will paint the common man. A man carrying the sick, a woman here, a woman carrying the spinning wheel, all their essential equipment for their life is now being carried. And look at this old man. He's carrying the pots and pans of the family. This young man carrying something in a sack. And this middle-aged man carrying something in the sack. This woman carrying a matka. This woman carrying a child on the head, and this woman carrying it on the side. And look at the gopas. Gopas are all busy chattering. They are more worried about the cows. What do I do with the cows? Because the cows also. And while the villagers are suffering, Fattu's create a statement, the two partridges, absolutely unconcerned. Nature doesn't worry about what is happening to us. Nature goes on its own course. The two partridges are least bothered that there is a mass movement of people. And this is what Fattu is trying to tell us, that nature is least bothered of going on. You are the sufferers. Although you are being led by headmen, and you have an interesting expression who points to the direction, even as a child. And he is our guide, not Nanda. Then we come to the second series of his painting, which are called the Sat Bihari Satsang. And it's very interesting. The story about who is Bihari? Bihari apparently is a poet. And there's a very interesting story about Bihari as to how he became a poet. And the story is something to do with Jacob. Wizard Raja Jaisim fell madly in love with a young lady. He married a young lady, and he forgot all about attending the court and looking up, discharging his responsibility. And that's worried all the courtiers, that when has the Raja disappeared? That he's in the Zanana, busy with his young wife. So they said, okay, we got to get him out, to come out to look at the restrictions. So they got Bihari Chobe, and they said, please send a couplet in. And this is what Bihari Chobe writes to Mirza Raja Jaisim. Nahi parar nahi madhur madhu, nahi vigas yahi kaal. Ali gali ke ho so vaadyo, aake kaun hawal. Meaning thereby that you are dealing in that only to a bud that has not even blossomed, a bud which does not even have a nectar. If this is your condition today, what will happen to the future? And when the Maharaja read that, he was shocked, because somebody rudely awakened him from his slumber. And when he came back to the court, his first question was, who has composed this? They said, that's Bihari Chobe. He calls Bihari Chobe and then tells him that since I am follower of Lord Krishna, please write as many couplets about their love affair as you can, and for every couplet I should pay you 1 gold rupee. Bihari Chobe wrote almost 714 couplets, which came to be known as Bihari Satsang, because there are 700s. This is one where Fattu paints Radha busy cooking the lunch. And again, she's a village woman. She's not attired in her fineries. She's not someone who would look like coming out with the Hira Mandi characters. She's a village woman who's busy cooking the lunch. And look at the way she sits, look at the way she is busy steering that pot, and in her left hand, she even has some spices. And look at the balan that is lying here. Look at the brinjals that are lying there. Look at the buttermilk which is up there. But while she is busy cooking, where is Lord Krishna? Except under his tree. And what is he doing? He's looking after the cows and talking to a Sakhi. But what is he talking to Sakhi about? Perhaps the Sakhi has gone and told him, what is the lunch being cooked? And you are expected for the lunch. Because it is Sakhi who is the messenger between Radha and Krishna. And you'll find these Sakhis all over his paintings. One thing that Fattu does introduce into Kangra painting is this oval-shaped composition. Prior to him it was hardly used, but he uses it so frequently that it became the hallmark of his painting. And as I said, he will, even in a closed space of a house, he will take you outside so all the viewers can breathe. This is another one which is beautifully written by Bihari Bhai. This is called The Message of the Eyes, and this is what the couplet says. Although her glance may wander, he turns away immediately, seeing her own Lord. Her gaze becomes steady, like the mariner's compass. They speak, disagree, rejoice, get annoyed, reconcile again, feel pleased, and then absorbed. While seated in the crowded hall, they speak to each other with their eyes. And look at the beautiful composition that he does. Radha walks towards the left, and yet when she sees Krishna sitting inside, suddenly she turns. And this is art we call contraposto, meaning moving in two different directions. While she is moving towards the left, her head is turned towards the right. And that creates a conflict in her body. Her Sakhis are busy gossiping. Oh my God, look at the love affair. Look at the way these lovers are exchanging their messages. And this gossip is then carried out. This is the Chinese whispers in the hall. And Fattu will not have you just stay in a big hall. He'll take you outside and show you the Yamuna, the village, the trees, the sky, and the horizon. And that is how he breaks through the space enough to give you a place where you can breathe and enjoy the landscape as much as the silent messages between Radha and Krishna. And this is what I say, that he captures the nuances of love so subtly in all his paintings. The third set of paintings he does, which is very interesting in Indian art, and mind you, this is one of the hallmarks of Indian art, never ever done anywhere else in the entire world art. The Baramasa. We are the only people who show each month of the year. The Chinese, the Japanese, the Western art deals with seasons. The Chinese, to show that it's winter season, they'll show you a painting of chrysanthemum because chrysanthemum grows during the winter season. Cherry blossom because it's the spring. So will the Japanese do the same thing. To the Western mind, it's autumn versus spring, winter versus summer. Not very good. The Indian mind is sensitive enough to realize that each month changes. And look at, I'll show you just two paintings. This is the month of Chat, and this is what, when these are Baramasa paintings, are based on. Keshav Das wrote a fabulous book called Kavi Priya, where he describes the 12 months of the year. Of course, Baramasas have been described as early as Ramayana and in Mahabharata. Because even Lord Ram, when he's suffering the pangs of separation from Sita, he talks about how he had to spend each month of the year with his beloved wife. Similarly, in Mahabharata it is described. Guru Nanak describes it. But Keshav Das Kavi Priya forms the basis for all these paintings of Varanasi. And this is the month of Chat, which is better known to us as March, April. And this is how Keshav Das describes it. Lovely creepers are in blossoming trees are young, once more, and streams and lakes are full of flowers. Women, aglow with passion, dressed in their best, abandon themselves to sports of love. The parrot, the madam, and the poet are singing songs of love. And this is the woman who is addressing her husband or whatever, and she says, why think of going away? Why spoil this joy in the month of Jan? I thought, and this is exactly what you see with Pete. Lord Krishna sits with Radha, although he's now looking much more like a Mughal prince. And Radha is the one who says, why spoil the joy? Stay with me. And that's the refrain of every single Bara Masa couplet. And for every month, she gives a different reason. And look at the beautiful ways he captures the beauty of the spring. These are the parrots. Here are the birds chirping. Fully bloomed flowers, tulips and poppies blooming here. The river is full. The land is green. This is the month of January. And yet, let the months change. And this comes in the month of June. And pretty soon we'll face this horrible month of June. And look at the way Keshav Das describes it. Air, water, sky, earth and fire. These elements become one, a burning fire. Weary feels the wayfarer, and tame is the wild elephant, seeing the dried pond. The cobra nestles in his trunk, and the tiger slumbers in his shade. All creatures of earth and water are feeble and know no rest. And this is what the Mughal says, her final argument. This is why the wise enjoy. Do not leave home and change. Therefore, her argument is to the wise that it is the wise who tell you not to leave. And this is exactly what Radha is telling Krishna. And look at the way, this is the cobra going into its hole. These are the wild elephants looking for a pond full of water where they could perhaps bathe. But the lake, the pond is absolutely dry. The Mantigan sit under a banyan tree, huge banyan tree here. The sun is brightly shining and burning the entire landscape. And although you can't see it, but in the painting, you will be able to see a tiger trying to enter into the cave. And this is exactly what Keshav Das said. And yet, despite all this gloomy landscape, the Amal Das, the golden shower blazes and tells you there is still life. And this is exactly what you see today in the roads of Delhi. Amal Das is ablaze with its beauty. And that is why she says, wise people tell you not to go, stay back. And no wonder we have the famous Tomali ghazal, Achani is another. That is the refrain of every Baramasa painting, or every Baramasa building. The fourth set of paintings that he has left under Ragmala series. Surprisingly, our museum, the National Museum, has out of 36 paintings of his, it has 28 paintings of Ragmala series, not a single one displayed out in the gallery. In fact, recently when I went there, I asked them where are the Ragmala series. They brought it to me and packed in a box. And I had one look at it and I said, but wait a minute, these are by Fattu. And they said, well, we don't know who did it. And then when I counted, it turned out it was 28 out of 36. And Dad said, 36. And I told them, I said, by the way, it's just worth about 150 crores. Sent it to the Metropolitan Museum, that's how much you got. And yet not a single painting of his, except the one Kalyadana. None of his Ragmala series are displayed in the museum. And this is what you call Rag Todi. As I said, while the musicians played in the court, the painters painted that has in human forms. Rag Todi is a rag of patterns. It is, and in fact, this is called Bhujani Todi, which is the most pathetic of all the ragas. And this is how, if you look at this painting and whenever you see a woman with a veena surrounded by ears or by peacocks, automatically you know this is Rag Todi. So if Kaun Banega Karorpati they show you, 98% guesses this is Rag Todi from a Ragmala series. And look at the beautiful way he paints this. The woman is sitting lost in her own thought because her lover is no longer actor. Therefore, she feels a pang of separation. Attracted by her music, by her veena playing, a pair of black buck and a deer come. But psychologically, the black buck and the deer are a reminder to her of the days when she would roam around the club. We don't know whether deers are actually attracted or it's a manifestation of her sight in front of her. The river flows, a beautiful fountain stream flows by, and everything is below. There is the lonely bird. So it aggravates her sense of separation. But there is hope. The other bird is about to fly back to its mate. Therefore, not everything is lost. The lover, like this other bird, will also fly back home and reunite with her. That is his rag. The other rag he paints, which is my favorite painting, is called Rag Pasand. And again, look at the way he shows you Pasand. Every flower is a bloom, every tree is a bloom, even right next to, and mind you, for Fattu, even a little bit of water matters. That's the Yamuna. And even the flowers are bloomed right next to the river bank. And what he's trying to tell us is when there's a spring, divinity turns. So the life comes back. And this is why Lord Krishna is dancing like a villager who is absolutely enthralled with sense of joy. He doesn't care what he looks like, he doesn't care where his pallu is going, he is just busy dancing. And dancing to what? To two gopis, one with a pakawaj and another with a kartal. And anyone who is aware of Rajasthani music will know rhythm is set with kartal. And you can hear that rhythm not only in Krishna's dancing, whose one leg is up and the other on the ground. You can hear that rhythm of life of that universe in nature itself. And that is the beauty of this painting, that he has shown you what happens when you see divinity in nature. Everything changes. Everything is alive. Ultimately, what he is to me, and what the reason why I like him as a painter is, if you are familiar with the word of Renoir, look at Renoir's work. Not a single painting that talks about pain, anger, frustration, pathos. None. His word is full of life, joy. Compare him to the works of Van Gogh, which is always pathetic. Talks about the pain of the peasant class. And here's Renoir. He says, forget that. Look at the most beautiful women I can paint. All his notes. At best, even when women are clothed, they're busy reading a book, or somebody playing on a piano, or a child carrying a butter. What? His word is full of life and joy and hope. That is Fattu in Indian culture. Although we do have one painting where I claim that, and this is the last slide. This painting is amazing work by him because it almost takes you to the abstract expressionism, where colors talk to you, but there's hardly an image. And this is called the burning of lakh. We do not know whether he painted the entire Mahabharata or not. Chances are that if this painting exists, there must have been a series of paintings done by him on Mahabharata, because Mahabharata naturally was a very important epic to be painted as was the Ramayana. But this is all that we have. And look at his juxtaposition. Lakh is burning at night because all the stars were shining. And yet you have just a hint of this is an arch of a building, but nothing but flames and flames and flames. That's it. And he almost presupposes what abstract art is. And that's why I say that he takes an imaginative leap, a leap of centuries, something that Picasso will do in late 1890s and early 1900s. And a gentleman sitting in a dingy little village called Kangra does it in 1700s. His dates are 1725 to 1785. And yet the tragedy is what you pursue. And this is why I say that he combines and he brings to us. And if you look at his painting, the beauty is they're all quiet, they're all peaceful. Even when Kaliya Daman is being shown, it's a quiet landscape. Even when women are pleading that please don't kill our husband, it's a quiet dialogue between the divinity and this Niku. Like that. And this to me is the essence of Indian art. Our Indian art, no matter what you see, even when you see Durga Kali Mahishasura, it's a quiet silence. And the beauty of, the other beauty of Fattu is he brings back and combines beautifully the Hindu element and the Islamic element into one picture. And that to me is the testimony of our people. That is the basic foundation of the Indian civilization. That's why we have survived for 5,000 years. Because we could assimilate everyone. So while Nanda looks like Shah Jahan, Yashoda looks like a Rajput princess. She is in all her finery as a Rajasthani woman would dress her. But they are religious. And that is the religion. Thank you. Thank you.
Just to ask you, this about this calculator, these are interpretations that you have made, or is research based in the point of view?
Most of it is research based, but some of them are my own interpretation. For example, when I talk about Lord Krishna as being a conversation, one who believes in the observing nature and talks about it is trying to communicate with us. That is my interpretation. In fact, I'm trying to write a book on connecting Indian art to modern issues. Because the only way you can popularize Indian art or any art form is to say what's important to us today. What's so great about it? I mean, when I look at a painting, let's say by Rubens, right? This is what I was telling people while I was working in the museum. We have a huge painting from H.S. Bound by Rubens. It's a beautiful nude painting of Prometheus literally being changed. And you see this huge eagle eating away its entrails. So I used to tell people, I said, fine, Rubens did it, what's so great about it? Okay. But then when you talk about the mythology, the myth behind it, and the fact that he brought fire, he stole fire from the Olympus and brought it to us, that painting becomes alive. And this is what I want people to realize, that each art piece can be brought alive if you know the nuances of the art piece. Okay. If you know that yes, this group of villagers trying to enter the government says, no, you can't. There are too many people already, stay outside for the time. That is our experience. That's what happens. And so a lot of the interpretation is mine, but yes, it is of course based on you. That's fine.
My grandmother मुझे ना समझने क्या ना वैसे आपने एक्सप्लेन कर ऐसे लगता है एक ही रोल नहीं है ऐसी देखी कुछ जाते हैं देख रहे हैं इसमें से आज का जो निकलते हमारे सामने रहती है एक आपने डिफरेंस एक बिहारी का हमने दोहा बोला इंग्लिश में तो मैं बताना चाहती हूँ कि मैं इसका हिंदी का दोहा अगर आपको मैं सुनाऊँ तो इतना ज़्यादा मीनिंगफुल है, इतना गंभीर है, क्योंकि बिहारी के बारे में कहते हैं सत सैया के दो बड़े और जो नाविक के थी देखन में छूटे लगे भाव करे झूठे। तो वो दोहा मैं आपको आपने इंग्लिश में बताया था, मैं बताती हूँ कहत नगर रीझत खिजत। अब ये राधा कृष्ण के बीच में बातें हो रही है बड़े बड़े में, कहत राधा से कुछ कृष्ण जी कहते हैं तो राधा जी एकदम मना कर देती है, रीझत उनके की मना करने पर कृष्ण रीझ जाते हैं, कहत नगर रीझत खिजत को राधा जी खींच जाती है दुर्गा बहुत, कहत नगर रीझत खिजत निवेद खिलत लजिया। फिर फंक्शन में जाते हैं, कृष्ण जाते हैं और फिर राधा से तुम लज्जा से छूट जाती है, नगर रीझत खिजत निवेद खिलत लजिया। अरे फोन में एक तरह की ने लेना में सोमा।
You know, I wish I knew this because my interpretation is I'm not too familiar with
that's and I wanted to tell us.
No, I'm so glad. Because
you have said that there are many things which Bihari have. Actually, Bihar का असली नाम बिहारी नहीं था, उनका नाम केशव दास था। और केशव दास के बाद तो बिहारी गई अपना नाम पर मतलब पुस्तक या जो भी बोलते हैं वो नहीं। पर बिहारी के लोग इतने गंभीर कभी के फर्क है, उनमें सूफी बने बिहारी की दुख और गहराई पर राधा ऋषि के प्यार को लेकर भी
Yes, sir.
right? And I find that sometimes you talk about this figures, they use the language that's
Amen.
in the especially in the migration scenes, you keep talking about how some of the main figures, the central ones, not the ones with the presence of what, bring the Mughal influence. And I think each in the period because then infiltrating up to the Rajasthani influence. So if you just elaborate a bit on this, looking local and the Rajasthani influence, because in terms of dates,
then it's Fattu states are 1725 to 1785.
yeah, it's
6 years he lived. We all know that Aurangzeb dies in 1707. That's the end of the medieval period. Now, we also know that Aurangzeb was dead set against art in any form. So what happened was that ateliers which were run by Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, he's the first emperor who comes and disbands all of them. He throws them and says, go back, I don't want you either in Agra or in Delhi. Many of the painters who were working were from the mountainous regions of Himachal. So they all go back to their villages and they carry this art. Now this is one of the topics which is a question, a debatable point. Did Fattu come down to, down from the mountainous area of Kangra to see what the plain area of India was? Because he does not paint the snow-clad mountains, he paints the hills. Okay. Or was he a student under the Mughal painters? Where does this Mughal painting influence come from? Now, Kumar Swami says this Mughal influence is because the Mughal painters shifted back to Himachal. And that is where you begin to see their impact in first in Gule in the works of Pandit Sevu, who was his grandfather. And then later on in Nansuk, and then later on Fattu's work, and so on and so forth. This influence continues till the Sikhs conquered Kangra. Once the Sikhs conquered Kangra in 1827, I think it's Ranjit Singh conquered Kangra. Then the Sikh influence moves into Kangra territory. But then you can see from 1810 onwards, you can see the decline of the Kangra paintings. As far as the Rajput influences, the Kangra kings and princes were marrying in Rajputana. And people don't know when the brides from Rajputana will move, they will carry these paintings with them. One of the most interesting influences, a princess of Kishingarh who is married in Hyderabad, in Dakkin. She carries her paintings with her to Hyderabad. Certainly the Golconda painters start making faces looking like Kishingarh Banikhan. Certainly there is a change in the Golconda painting style. Why? Because she's the one who carried them. So there is this constant flux. So yes, we do have influence of Rajput paintings, especially in the garments that they want to do, because Hardy baby don't wear this garment of lehenga, chunni and odhani. That's a typical Rajasthani, Haryanvi dress to act.
So in that seems as if Fattu was a very stylized and literate and teaching a very well tradition. And so this idea that he is from a remote village and all, does it truly fit into it? This painting suggests that I'm a stylized form of
Indian art by itself is always stylized. We never believed in individualization because our art deals with concepts, it does not deal with individuals. So you will never, in Indian art, you will never have a Mona Lisa, whom you know is the wife of a banker. You will never have a portrait of Napoleon or Queen Elizabeth I. Everything is stylized in Indian art. So he carries on that tradition. But yes, I think he must be well read to be able to understand the nuances of what Bihari was writing in his poetry. But I think it's a cumulative effect of what's going on in the court. You have a musician who can tell him the nuances of a rag. You have a pandit who can tell him that, look, read Bhagavad Puran this way and try to picturize it. So I think it's something, that's a collaborative effort. I don't know whether he would read or write and the family comes from what we call the carpenter pandit families. So he himself says, we are pandits, but we are carpenter pandits. Carpenter pandits were those who were for people who did the carpentry work in temples. So they are called pandits, but they are also called carpenter pandits. They are not the true pandits who will read your Vedas and all. No, they are not. They are basically carpenters. So he says, I come from a family of painters. Now I'm sure he may not even be literate in that sense. How much he had studied, we don't know. In fact, we don't know anything about his life. All we know is that, like Pandit Senu, his grandfather, he begins his work in Guled and then moves to the court of Sansarji. In fact, there are too many missing pieces of the puzzle. We don't know. That is why it's Indian art history and the miniature school of the party miniature school is so interesting, because we don't know anything about anything. I mean, even Fattu's father, we don't know. There was a long debate. His father's name is Manu. For a long time, there's a Geet Govind, which is beautifully illustrated. Geet Govind got it, Chaitev's, but it's a second version of it. It's called Tehri Geet Govind. Apparently, somewhere it says that it was painted by Manu. For a long time, people thought it was a lady painter. Till V.N. Goswami Sahib proves to us that no, Nelso carries the ashes of his uncle Manu. And there he writes that Manu is my uncle whose ashes I brought to Haridwar. And he writes it on that very khata of the Pandit. And he in fact makes a painting of Lord Shiva and Parvati sitting with the Ganges flowing down to Haridwar. So that is when V.N. Goswami Sahib discovered from those writings that okay, Manu is a man, not a woman. So that is his seminal work. If you read M.S. Randava's book on Geet Govind, which is readily available in the National Museum, that is what he says, that Manu is not a woman painter, Manu is a male painter.
मैं आप similarities का painting देखना आपसे art में कैसे
Just to keep myself sane, man. When you read too many murder appeals, that you better get.
RSK was a giant thing of vivid painters in India. I'm the shelter is the
I mean, yeah, but they're all modern painters. I mean, now, of course, we have large number of
children
Yes, he had 4 sons. In fact, even Nancy had 4 sons at the Kerala. But we don't know because none of them ever signed. That's one of the main weaknesses of Indian art anywhere. Even our greatest sculptors, they never signed their works. Like, you go to Khajuraho, you see those beautiful works. You go to the Pada artist, never signed it. The only place where we have a sculptor signing it is in Karnataka.
maybe they were not allowed in that time.
No, you're absolutely right. The reason why they're not allowed is because it is a gift you give to the gods. It's in the making of a temple. Now, when you give a gift, you're not, in fact, even today in Tirupati, if you give even a crown to Tirupati Balaji, you're not permitted to write your name. In fact, few years ago, somebody had gifted a crown worth crores of rupees, but inside he had written his name. They rejected it. They said, sorry, it cannot go on the head of the deity. It contains your name. That's egoism. When you come to the temple, the first thing you leave behind is your egoism. So perhaps that's why we never saw, because everything was in the name of religion. I mean, even Bhagavad Puran is in the name of religion. Hindu is in the name of religion. So nobody ever
Also, I
bothered.
think there was also conversion during the Roman gate. Of course, conversion like conversion gate is
Only conversion was that you were being patronized by the king. And the king liked your painting, he will give you. In fact, you're right, Basman, who is the famous painter of Akbar and Jahangir, during Jahangir time, she keeps on saying, he's paid me for my work. What a miser emperor you are. And in fact, in one of his paintings, he writes that fact that I'm not being paid by Jahangir.
But I believe those that it is paid for the 12 comes within China. उसमें आत्मा रंग आपको
In fact, Nansuk has a beautiful painting where he shows himself, offering a painting and the Sansarjan, the Maharaj, no, not Sansarjan. Maharaj is looking at it and he is standing behind it with his hands folded.
I have a question about the Baramasa, which is something that is always fascinating. Now, in the Baramasa painting that you see by Fattu, there's a certain kind of landscape. Now, the monthly configuration of the seasons is very different in Kangra and in Rajasthan and North India and what you said about the Deccan paintings. So, when one looks at Fattu's Baramasa, yes, it's a certain kind of a thing. But do the Baramasa paintings as they exist show a great deal of variety in the landscape that is occurring?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look at the Baramasa from both these. Interestingly, the Rajput school talk about the months, talking about the festivals we celebrate. For example, when Tej is there, they will show a Tej Savari. When Gangaur is there, they will show you Gangaur Savari. So, and the landscape is that of Godi. You will see the palm trees, you will see the beautiful lush greenery of Godi. You will see waterfalls, you will see fountains. It's totally different landscape from what Fattu is showing us. So it's the change because the artist naturally is relating to his own surrounding. So that's why, in fact, we can classify schools depending on the foliage, the vegetables, which is trees which are. And Deccan is totally different. So
the weather there is
and the technique is so different. But one thing that surprises everyone, and many people ask us, why is it that Kangra painters don't paint the snow curtain? It's only there's one series called Shiva's Strota, which talks about these 5 great sages who are trying to go and reach Lord Shiva. That's the only time that we see snow curtain. It's all whenever the painting deals with the Shiva theme, like Shiva bringing Parvati down from the mountains or showing his holy family of Lord Ganesh, Lord Karthikeya, I don't say.
The painting actually covered compared to the state rather shooting
There are series of Shiva's painting, and in fact there is a complete series on goddess Durga.
by Fattu.
No, not by Fattu, but by the Kangra. Unfortunately, what is happening, what has happened and is presently happening is that we are losing all these to foreign collectors. If you go through Sotheby's catalog or Christie's catalog, you will be shocked the way our miniature paintings are being sold abroad. The best Ramayana series, and something that I'm trying to convince the government that please get that series, which is lying in Surat. A part of it is with the Metropolitan Museum New in fact, that artist, I think, beats Fattu hollow when it comes to landscape painting. We don't know who he is, but nobody has even compiled those folios together. But the majority of it is lying in Zurich. But unfortunately, nobody's bothered.
But the Tibetan painters do paint snow-clad and all that. They said paintings we see a lot. I was in Dharamshala.
Yes.
And I saw some of the paintings at the Lama's residence used to come. And we went around. And they do paint for a long time, the snow-clad mountains.
Yes, they do.
And the passes that they used to actually migrate into India.
In Kangra paintings, you will see that because they're coming from a highly mountainous, and again, the artist is reflecting. That's why the question: why is it that Nansuk doesn't show it? Why is it that Fattu doesn't show it? Why is it that anyone from his family they don't talk about it? And it can't be that they're ignorant of the snow-clad mountains. I mean, you see them all around in Bulaga, but somehow, either because the stories themselves took place near Yamuna, which is a flat land. Perhaps that's why they were trying to have it settled there. The setting has to be according to the story.
Another question is about the Kishangarh School of Miniatures. That has a lot of the Mughal and the Raj and kind of a mixture. I have a few representations of that.
Absolutely.
And it's very difficult to say what exactly is going on there. You look at the picture and you wonder whether it's the Mughal school or it's the Rajput school.
No, Kishangarh has its unique indicators. For example, the eyes are always upturned. The eyebrows are almost like what in our poetry we say कि धनुष जैसे धनुष कमान जैसे होना चाहिए. The nose is so sharp you can even cut it piece of
pointed.
yeah. That is because the Maharaja was madly in love with this lady who was named as Bani Thani. She was apparently a stunning Rajput woman. And in fact, once it happened, a friend of mine came to me and he said, "Can you do a Bani Thani painting for me?" So I looked at him and I said, "What do you mean? It's such a, hideous looking face because it's disproportionate." And his comment was so unique. He said, "Janab, तब आप नहीं जानते हैं ये अदा किसे कहा जाता है." That's what you mean. He said, "अरे इनके नखरे देखिए, इन्होंने आंखें झुका रखी हैं, but she knows she's attracting that Raja. हाथ पे कमल है, और तो कमल खिले हुए नहीं है, केवल कली है कमल की. And she will not even let that man approach her. But she is madly in love with him." कहने साहब ये नजाकत होती है, ये नखरे एक औरत के. And look at her eyes, they are huge. And if you look at beautiful Rajasthani women, yes, Rajasthani women do have huge eyes and a very sharp nose. And when you sit in front of that painting for 10 minutes, that woman literally comes alive. And then you realize, my God, what elegance this woman must have had. Especially after this Maharaja, all the paintings have the same face. Because that's why I'm saying that we believe in stylization. We have the ideal face. So now we'll put it in everyone, including Lord Krishna begins to have all these effeminate, gestures. So he also has eyes which are upward, eyebrow like it. Because he also looks like he is Radha, and there is a constant, in fact, he has done a fantastic work on how Radha and Krishna keeps on changing each other. Even there are paintings in Kangra which show Krishna ji in the clothes of Radha and Radha in the clothes of Krishna ji. So that constant duality is always there.
Whatever chemistry paintings, they're influenced by the Mughal art.
Yes, there was, please remember, Mughal art began somewhere in 1500s. And it also passes through different phases. Under Akbar, under Jahangir, and then Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan is where industrialization comes in. In fact, the paintings done in Shah Jahan, the Britishers have gone to the extent they've taken the Pashanama paintings are in one collection, they're lying in the Windsor Castle. When we celebrated our 50th independence, the Britishers, for our sake, they analyzed each painting. And they can tell you exactly which courtier is sitting where. That's how individualized the portraiture is. Something that was not there during Akbar's time or Jahangir's time. Although Jahangir in his diary writes that I am such a connoisseur of art that if you bring any painting to me, I can tell you who are the artists who have collaborated on this painting. I can tell you who did the sketch, who did the horses, who did the deers, who did the flying birds, who did the landscape. I can tell you each and every artist, which is very true, because Baswan and all the others, the beautiful landscapes.
But actually, that leads me to this question about what people saying and what Venu also said. Did Fattu belong to an atelier? Or was he on his own? Because in a lot of ateliers, exactly what you're saying, somebody did the outline, somebody did the filling, somebody did the eyes, etc. In which case, who's going to sign? That possibility doesn't exist. But so, what is the story of Fattu to the extent that we know? Are they entirely his work, or will it belong to an atelier?
Most likely, they're his work for two reasons. Number one, he's been patronized by a very local Raja. Number two, if there is any other person who's working, it might be his cousin brothers who are also living together. They're all painters. That's so four the sons. They're all painters in their own right, and you can see elements being borrowed back and forth. Now, whether they actually painted for him, we do not know. But we can see the similarity in the foliage and the trees. So yes, there is back and forth going on. But most likely, Fattu painted on their death. Because you don't have big ateliers and you don't have huge production as you have during Akbar's time. When you have to do the Baburnama on one hand and your Mahabharat on the other hand, and you have to do Ramayana on the third hand, you better have an array of painters. And Akbar was good enough not only to bring painters from different communities, from different parts of the country, he patronized them and he wanted his painters to do the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Because as he said, I'm illiterate. Only way I can understand all these books. Even his grandfather's autobiography, Baburnama, he said, I can't read it. It's in the language which is Turki. I know Persian. Please illustrate it for me. And that's why you have all the Baburnama paintings talking about, Panipat ki ladai, this is what according. Now we have some idea, but there everyone had to collaborate because everyone had a specialization. For example, Mansoor, who is the most famous wildlife painter of Jahangir, wherever Jahangir went, he just said, Ustad Mansoor, pack up and let's go. We're going to Kashmir today. So Mansoor Saab went. Now the first time his first zebra is brought to the court in Agra, and nobody can figure out what in the world is this animal. And everyone says, no, Jahanpana, this is a cheater's job. Somebody is trying to cheat you. This is a mule who's painted black and white. What's so great about it? And nobody can figure out that it strikes Janki. Janki says, wait a minute, pull its hair. If the white is white inside and the black is black inside, then it's a real animal. Otherwise it's painted. So that's what they did. They took out hair and they realized it's a real animal. The moment they realized it's a real animal, he said, Ustad, Mansoor, please paint this. This is the first animal to come to India. So we have the first turkey, the first giraffe, the first zebra, all painted by Mansoor because Mansoor is specialized only in wildlife.
कृष्णा कभी के बारे में बात चले बस एक गांव में आती गया तो वहाँ पे कितनी आती थी देखा नहीं तो गिलाया गया सब छोटे गिलाया सब पोस्ट कर गया तो लाल बुझक्कर थे उनको बुलाया आपने सुना होगा नाम लाल बुझक्कर मुझे और न मुझे कोई करके उन्होंने कहा मैं जानती पाँव में चक्की बांध के हिलना कूदा हुई किसी को पता है उसने कबड्डी खेला था आई स्केल करके वो दे दिया
Where are Fattu's paintings to be found now? Where are they?
A great majority of them in the National Museum in wooden boxes. And when I asked them, can I see them? They said, no sir, you can't because we have 150 boxes and we don't know which painting is in which box. So in fact, I'm grateful to the director, Dr. Mani, because he said I can't have access to them. Because I told him, I said, sir, I'd like to work only on Fattu now. And at least bring out his painting for the world to see what a beautiful artist we have produced. But the only difficulty is they don't know. M.S. Randhawa Sahib, who was the director of the National Museum in the 1950s, early 60s, he did produce published books by the National Museums. For example, he has produced an entire book on the paintings of Bhagavad Gita. But unfortunately, that painting, Randhawa Sahib doesn't mention Fattu. He says we don't know who's worked there. In fact, they have beautiful sketches of the paintings, and you can see how he thought of it, how he changed it. For example, the first or second one that I showed you, this one. If you look at the sketch, it has a complete bullock cart in it. And a man is sitting and repairing that bullock cart. And it relates to that story that Lord Krishna had hit the bullock cart. Because the bullock cart was an asur. In the sketch that Fattu does for this painting, then when he does this painting, he takes out the bullock cart. And you can see how his thought patterns are changing. How his thinking is changing. The moment, giving water to the cow, that is there, this entire scene is there, but in the middle, and in fact the platform is raised in that drawing. And there's a Gopa who is very attentively listening to the conversation. But all that is missing from the painting. The sketch is different, the painting is quite different.
So I think when you some paintings है तो नेचर स्पेक्ट्रम को मैंने देखे हैं बारी की शायरी पर वो किसने बनाई?
That we don't know.
वो इतना सुंदर करती सर नीचे इसकी डाली के रहती.
In fact, I know I know someone who was telling me that there's a professor here in Delhi who's right now doing an entire series of oil painting. In fact, I'm dying to want to see those oil paintings as to how he visualizes a shade written by Kangra painting.
So that's in really get there.
Very
I saw so.
Actually, in Hyderabad, the better collection is with the Mittal family, whom I have contacted and they've shown me the restoration. Fattu's work is basically in this Banaras campus. They have part of it is in Ahmedabad, most of it is in Hyderabad, and then of course this first follow to
मेरे पास भी है 2-3 तो मेरे पास भी है
That's it.
मेरी गाली बंद
the I'd love to see them. I'm sure it's
I think we can carry on over lunch. Thank you for an amazing journey. Truly, I think it was really a crash course, and I think what Rekhaji said, now whenever we look at this painting, they'll actually speak to us and talk to us. Because every painting that you put made it so alive, it was just so amazing. Because I think, at least I can say for myself, when we travel to Rajasthan, we go to Kishangarh, we buy paintings, we have them in our drawing room, we share them a lot, but I don't think we understand them. But you really have opened our eyes, and we really will think and it's very happy. Thank you so much. I think
yes, that's
Thank you.